peoples of the worldwide federated internet. What's good? All right, welcome back to the Thinking. So we're sitting here having a conversation and Lizzo came up and we were talking about, what would you call a conversation? Was it really about weight? Was it about confidence?
It was more about, the conversation itself was about how weight is portrayed, I think.
Portrayed,
like how,
perceived.
People are, what's the word? Advertising it.
Okay, so my contention, we have differences of opinion on this. My contention was that Lizzo wasn't merely being proud of herself. She was celebrating and advocating obesity. And your position was?
My position was she was trying to be confident in who she was before she started making changes in her health to make it better. She was trying to accept and respect the body that she currently had in order to move forward. Because now you see on her Instagram, she's vegan, she's always eating super healthy and making sure she gets the right nutrition, and she works out literally all the time, and she always promotes a healthy living style and a healthy eating style.
So would you say that kind of makes me think that she even knew that there was a problem with herself before?
I don't think she tried to see it as a problem, though. I just think it's something that she wanted to improve. It's when you're trying to improve something big like that in your life, I feel like instead of seeing it as a problem, you need to see it as something that, okay, this is who I am, and I respect that. I respect my struggles. I respect what this means for me, but also I want to make some changes so I can respect myself in a different light, if that makes sense.
It does. So do you think that, I'm trying to figure out how to word this. All right. So do you think that it was healthy, or it is healthy for someone who knows, okay, so let's say, I'm going to use myself. Let's say if I have a problem with, let's say drugs, because we were kind of talking about this. It's different. It is different, but I'm just going to use the same argument. Let's say if I say, well, I'm comfortable with the fact that I'm a drug addict and I'm addicted, and I need to be comfortable with who I am as a drug addict. That's one thing. But when you celebrate that in the public sphere, especially when you have influence, do you think maybe that's a little bit different? You influence a lot of kids. Think about that.
Well, like you said, it's hard to compare, considering we didn't even know how Lizzo was eating or how she was working out until a few months ago, or the beginning of last year. Nobody knew what she was doing with her body. She could have been eating completely healthy and working out all the time, but we don't know that because she wasn't advertising it at that moment.
So why would you not advertise a healthy lifestyle versus, so what I would say is, why would you celebrate obesity while in the background eating healthy and trying to lose weight?
I don't think she's ever been trying to lose weight. She's just trying to live a healthy lifestyle, and I don't think she was celebrating obesity. I think she was celebrating respecting yourself as you are, even if it may come with hard comings before, because you need to respect yourself as the person you are before you can make any changes. And going back to the last question you asked me about the drugs, what was that question?
I was saying, if I had a struggle with drug addiction, or is I guess the way I can frame this is your argument, I should be proud of who I am before seeking to make a change?
I think in that case, because it is different, you should be proud of overcome. I guess, are we talking in the sense that you're still a drug addict trying to get better?
Let's say I'm just a drug addict
Okay.
and I'm not trying to get better.
Oh, well, that's different because Lizzo was actually trying to like change her lifestyle.
Well, she is now, that we know from what you're saying. I don't really follow her. I guess so.
Or this could have been her lifestyle all along. She just never advertised it. We truly can't know that.
Which for me, if it was, that's problematic. And this is the reason I say that. Obesity, I wouldn't shame somebody who's obese, right? I wouldn't do that. I would encourage them to live a healthier lifestyle. The problem
is, thing is you don't know like what lifestyle they're living.
This is true. But the one thing I can say, if a person is obese for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, it's a good probability and probably a very good guess, probably 100% good, that they're not living a healthy life. Now, I know there are some situations, and they are very rare because this is brought up all the time, where people have health conditions whereby they gain weight, people with thyroid problems, right? But the caveat to that is I have personally in my own life met people with issues that caused them problems losing weight, and yet they still lived healthy lives and lost weight because they understood that the weight was only going to compound their issues. So my contention is, are we as a society going to act like obesity is not a problem? Are we afraid to say, I'm not shaming you, but this is a problem that needs to be taken care of?
I honestly, looking at Lizzo, I don't think she was obese. Because I don't know her measurements. I don't know her weight or her height, but all I see, from what I see, only like she knows the specifics of herself and her life.
Right.
But what I see is a woman trying to take care of herself. That's all I see. That's all I've seen.
So I don't know Lizzo, and this is, if she were to ever see this is definitely not about attacking her, but I can tell you for a fact, this is not me guessing, she was obese. Now, I don't know what she is now. You say she's working out and she's eating healthy, and good for her, but she was obese. And I think the problem we have in this day is we don't want to attack people, because I understand your point.
And also, I don't think it's a matter of her like denying that she's like bigger or obese. I think it's the fact that she feels like it's nobody's business what she has going on with her own body.
I will agree with you. Here's the caveat. She was the one that initiated the celebration of her obesity. This is where you involve other people, right? If you have a problem, it is nobody else's business. But at what moment you begin to celebrate your problem publicly, now you've made it everybody else's business, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what people's contention has always been, because I know people who are obese. I wouldn't say anything to them unless they ask my opinion, or if they ask, hey, what do you think I should do to be healthier? And then we can have a conversation about that, but I'm not.
Yeah, and that's the same thing with Lizzo. She didn't like ask of anybody's opinion, but people gave their opinion, which is why like people are having conversations about it, because there are people who are against it, like her lifestyle or how she is, and there are people fighting for her, and that's what makes it like, I don't know, that makes her kind of want to like fight back, because it's people supporting her, trying to defend her, if that makes sense at all.
It does. And I definitely, so what you're saying is 100% true. The caveat, and this goes back to what I just said, is when you celebrate your obesity publicly, now you've made it everybody else's business, right?
But like, when has she ever said, I like how big I am, or I like that I'm fat, or whatever?
Yeah, I don't think.
What do you consider celebrating obesity?
Okay, so I don't think she's ever said that, but I have seen, I'm trying to, and forgive me because I can't recall offhand exactly what she said, but I have seen videos where she was celebrating, she called it celebrating her body. I can't remember exactly how it was said. Now,
There's a difference between celebrating your body as a woman. There's a difference between celebrating your body and celebrating like being a certain way.
No, but
or something.
it wasn't about her body specifically. It was specifically about her weight. That was the grounds for the whole discussion, and that's why I said I don't have a problem whether somebody's skinny, obese, fit, whatever. It's none of my business. But as a celebrity, especially, right? If you celebrate something publicly, you've just made it everybody's business, right? So
that's true.
So if somebody came out, like let's say if one of your favorite producers, male producers, came out right now and said, "I like 13-year-olds," what would you say?
That sounds extremely sus.
We got a problem,
Yes.
right? Because you've just made your personal thing public. So now we got a problem. And I think that's the issue people had with Lizzo. It wasn't necessarily just her weight, right? Because I think
I don't think anybody, I mean, obviously there are some like douchebags who would have pointed it out whether or not she said it
anyway,
or not.
Right, you're right.
But like, I understand that, the fact that she kind of like made light of, like, made it the focal point of her herself, and like people trying to like, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that was really the whole point of the contention, and I think that's where the waters got muddy, right? I understand her having a problem with people's vicious and nasty attacks, right? Because there's no need for that. Somebody can celebrate, like in her case. Let's say okay, she's celebrating her weight. Somebody could have said, "Hey, look, I understand that you're comfortable with who you are, but we also have to point out the fact that obesity is a problem. We can't normalize this."
And I feel like a lot of people do come at her like that, and she gets like overly offended by it. But then also she's getting a lot of people like aggressively saying like, "You're a fat B word, you need to lose weight now," and blah 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 blah.
So they're not helping.
Yeah, they're kind of like making her keep that wall of like, I don't want to listen to it up.
That that's I think that's the bigger issue. The bigger issue is we can't have adult conversations.
Yeah, nobody knows how to communicate properly to where that we can actually get a point across.
Yeah, me and you just had a breakdown about this a few days ago where we had to come to an understanding, because I mean, it's and what you said was true. Someone can say something and it doesn't necessarily, I'm going to say this, and I hope viewers out there and listeners understand what I mean. What you say does matter. But sometimes someone can perceive what you said in a certain way, and that's where communication comes in.
Yeah, it's all about like how you were raised. I mean, not even how you were raised, like who you are as a person, and like how you see things and like perspective. And how you like receive certain reactions from people.
So this is where I think a true breakdown comes, and this is something we talked about the other day: objectivity. You have to be able to put your emotions aside and be objective when hearing a point or an argument, no matter how you feel about it, right? Like Lizzo in this situation might have thought, well, I'm proud of who I am, but she should have been able to be objective and say, okay, even though I'm proud of who I am, I have to understand that obesity creates health risk.
Yeah, and that I agree with that. But also you have to consider at what rate she was getting those like comments. And like I see a lot of videos of people like being super like aggressive with it. Like, Lizzo, you need to stop this. And like instead of like calmly saying, okay, yes, it's good to be confident in who you are, but also let's talk about the problems that obesity brings to younger people and to yourself.
Yeah, to anyone. Yeah, and
so like she's just seeing like, obviously there are like a couple people who are calm about it, but also there are like 10 times more people who are like very aggressive with how they relay their information, relay like their opinions and stuff like that. And like if she sees a majority of people being negative, then she's going to respond in a negative light.
The unfortunate thing about social media is social media has exaggerated. Well, I don't know if I'd say exaggerated. It has exposed the evil in many people's hearts because people behind a keyboard and behind a camera are willing to say things to other people that they would have never said otherwise.
That's true.
I've seen it on social media. I've seen people say things, blast people, go back and forth, and I'm like, man, what? Like, there is no need.
And then, like, when they're in person, they act like they're shy
different.
Or something,
right?
Shy to say what they want to say.
Completely different. Not ready. They're not really about that action. They're only about that action when they're keyboard warriors. So okay, so would you say a fair assessment would be, okay, Lizzo, yes, you can be proud of who you are, but we have to be objective and understand we can't celebrate obesity. That's a problem.
Yeah, I agree with that. You can't celebrate obesity because the word obesity in itself, it's an unhealthy, it's unhealthy.
Yeah, it is. It is. This is something we talked about when you were younger, right? What people do with their weight, right? This is something that I've tried to talk to my kids about throughout their life, right? And it's not like I'm gonna force you to eat this way or I'm gonna force you to do this, but at least be aware of the fact that
it's about like getting all the information you can get.
Yeah, this is a problem.
Know.
Right. Yeah, this is a problem because I think so. We're gonna go into a further issue. I think a big problem within the Black community, I can't speak for others, but I think a big problem within the Black community, especially with women, especially fathers and mothers with daughters, afraid to talk about weight. And I think that is actually goes along the lines of the conversation we were having before we started the podcast, right? Mm-hmm. About, Dad, why didn't y'all give us this information, or why didn't y'all tell us about this, right? You kind of feel slighted, right? Like, this was a problem and you didn't tell me. I think within the Black community, we don't talk about weight and we don't talk about health enough, not in a negative way.
But
right?
in the way that, I feel like in the way that you're not educated on everything. So like you can only like tell your kids what you know. Some
things are obvious though. Obesity, I think it's pretty obvious that that's a problem.
It's obvious for you, but like for a kid who's never like experienced it or learned about it, it's not so obvious.
Well, yeah, no. So what I'm saying about it,
you mean like
obvious,
parents,
like for a parent,
yeah.
Right? So this,
like a grown adult who's been through life.
What, like, have you seen? I'm sure you've seen it. And this is not. I'm not fat shaming anyone. For those out there listening, understand it's not about fat shaming, but we have to start living in reality. We're living in a dream world. We've all seen parents out with kids, and the kid is, let's say, 7 years old and already 160 pounds. You know what I mean? Like, come on, like at that point, if you don't talk with that kid,
it's different if you're like, you're working on it. If it's something that you guys are constantly working on. But if it's just progressively getting worse and you're not doing anything about it, that can become a problem and create like just a domino effect of issues.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. In all you're 19 and all your 19 years of life, your long 19 years, have you ever seen a kid with their parents, and let's say this kid is overweight and you know, all right, this kid is overweight. Have you ever ran into one of those situations where you got the impression that they were working on this?
I don't think I can really answer that question because I've never interacted with somebody in that situation.
So
we see these people in like Walmart or whatever, but we don't really know like what their lives are.
This is true.
We don't know like what they're working on and what they're not working on. So like,
very true.
Unless we know the people personally, we can't like really judge like, oh, you need to work on your weight. Like they could be working on their weight.
Okay.
They could have just started working on their weight.
I'm glad you said that because I was going to fast forward to people you actually know now. So now take that into consideration, right? The scenario I just brought up now. How many people that you know personally, and you have to know some, we all know some, right? Whether it's somebody you went to school with or somebody you know or know of that has kids who are overweight. Out of the people, just going in your mental Rolodex, out of the people you know in that scenario, how many of them do you know that are actually working on that situation with their children?
I don't think I know anybody personally.
I do, and I'm going to tell you, 0 of them are working on that situation with their children. 0. I've never met anyone with overweight children who is actually working on that with their children. That doesn't mean they're not out there.
Actually,
Oh, Becca might know somebody. Let's see. She's going in her mental Rolodex.
I used to have a friend, and her mom would always point out like her weight, and like she tried to like get her to eat healthy and like work out.
So she was trying.
Yeah,
that's good. And even if I think even if,
but like at a certain age, you can, as a parent, you can do so much, but also it sucks because like the parents are the one who get their children into the mess, but also it's up to you at that point when you're like grown.
Which is one of the reasons why we had this conversation real early on, right? Because I didn't want to get you in the mess of being overweight and then
but also you have to be careful how you talk to your children about that, because then that could create body dysmorphia issues and like eating disorders and stuff like that. So you have to like, it's kind of like a 50-50. Like you don't not want to talk about it, but you don't want to talk about it in the wrong way to where you have other issues on the other side of the spectrum.
I'm glad you said that, because I think one of the best ways to deal with that is for parents themselves to be healthy.
Exactly. If your children see you like working out and eating healthy, they're going to want to be like that. I agree. Your children they're literally your like mini yous. They like copy whatever you do, whether they want to or not.
They're a reflection. So I don't think this is an accident. I've seen many families and seen children where you see the mother and the father are grossly overweight. I'll tell you a story. This happened while I was living in San Antonio a few months ago. A man and a woman passed away. They both got COVID. The story went out, tragic story. Local family in San Antonio left. They had one child, a son, right? So he's now motherless and fatherless. And this gut-wrenching story. Do you know what was the most heartbreaking thing for me about that story when I got the details? When they showed pictures of the mother and the father, they were both obese. And even though this is a situation that many people don't want to talk about, one of the prime candidates for problems with COVID-19 are people who are obese. But in the paper, that was never mentioned. It was never talked about and it was never touched on. And I know it's uncomfortable because we don't want to shame people. But at what point does not talking about something actually put a person in more danger? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So we're not talking about this, and this is a problem.
Nobody's getting educated. Nobody knows that it's a problem because nobody's saying it's a problem.
Right, because we're all afraid of hurting somebody's feelings. So I think there's a cross point, right? Like there's a point where you can balance speaking truth without being evil about speaking truth, right? Like in that article, they could have mentioned something about obesity being one of the worst comorbidities when it comes to COVID-19. That might have caused somebody else to look at that article and look at the picture and go, oh man, this is dangerous. Do you know there's a lot of people? So I don't know if you're familiar with the rapper Action Bronson. So he had, I'm trying to think if you might have watched he has like a food show. I can't remember what you call it. I can't remember. Anyway, he was on the Joe Rogan podcast. We were just talking about Joe Rogan. He started losing weight during COVID-19. You know what made him start losing weight? He was telling a story about going to or trying to go to South America so his in-laws can see his new son. I think he had a son born. His wife's from South America, if I'm not mistaken. COVID happened, whatever happened, they couldn't get on a plane. They wound up not going. His dog was overweight. And he stepped on the scale, and he said when he looked down and he saw that, he realized, man, if I don't fix this, I'm not going to be here for my wife and my son. He understood the reality of obesity. It wasn't a game. And this is the problem I have when people celebrate obesity, because it is really, imagine people celebrating getting cancer. You'd be like, what? That's bananas. Like, why would you celebrate this? That's not, like, this is a problem. So when I look at people celebrating obesity, I don't want to attack the person, but I want to say, like in Lizzo's situation, look, be comfortable in your skin. Be comfortable with who you are. That's great. But we can't be willy-nilly with celebrating obesity, especially a person like you with the grand stage you have and the influence you have. Right? You got to be responsible and say, look, I'm proud of who I am, but there's definitely some changes I need to make because obesity is unhealthy. That's not an attack on yourself. That's not saying that you're not comfortable with yourself, but it's just recognizing a problem.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Also, I don't think that, at least not now, because I've seen like the stuff she posts on Instagram and TikTok. I think she's celebrating now a healthy lifestyle.
Hey, shout out to Lizzo. If you losing weight, getting your healthy lifestyle on, shout out to you, because this is why I'll give her some props. It takes a lot to be ridiculed by people, because normally when you're ridiculed, you just want to push back and do the opposite, right? Mm-hmm. So it actually takes a lot of courage to, in the face of all that ridicule, still be able to say, yeah, I need to change this up.
I think that she, even like, because her fame is very kind of recent within the last 5 years, I think that has been working on it.
Probably.
She just hasn't been advertising.
Yeah, probably.
That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, because I mean, we are in a social media age. And I guess
like a bunch of people I don't know. I think that all of the publicity she's getting is drawing more light to it, and I guess she felt the need to divulge that information about herself.
Right.
Which sucks, because like celebrities can't like have privacy, or they'd be accused of something.
Yeah, and so again, it's that delicate area of, if you're a celebrity, you have to know if you're gonna make something public, it's gonna be public.
Yeah, like, people are gonna comment on it and be negative about it.
It's just what it is. What comes with the game. You can't. It surprises me when there are celebrities who are super. I'm gonna say this, and I don't want this to come off mean, but it shocks me when some celebrities are super duper sensitive, as if they didn't understand what comes with being a celebrity. Like, did you not pay attention to other celebrities?
Some people didn't ask for it. Some people are just trying to do their jobs.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're singing, you're an R&B singer, if you're an artist, you gotta know what comes with the territory.
I suppose, but Sia did it for many years, being anonymous.
Now, and so okay, we can talk about, that's kind of a unique scenario though, right? Because you're doing this anonymous. You don't want to be in the limelight. Right?
That's true. But not everybody has that thought, like, oh, I can do this anonymously. Right. Nobody has to know who I am.
Bruno Mars, if I'm not mistaken, for many years, he wrote for Beyonce. He wrote for Rihanna. He wrote for a bunch of people, and he was just in the back. Not that he wanted to be in the background. I think he was actually trying to make it, and it's funny because the label said he didn't have the image. And now Bruno Mars is one of like the most, I've heard his concerts are amazing. I'd love to go to a Bruno Mars concert. I hear he tears the house down, but yeah, I mean, so I guess the conclusion would be, I don't have a problem with Lizzo being comfortable with who she is, but we can't celebrate unhealthy behavior. You can balance the two. You can be comfortable with who you are while not celebrating unhealthy behavior. I think it's possible to do both things.
Yeah, and I think that's what she's currently doing now.
Hey, shout out to Lizzo. I like to see it. I like to see people doing what doing what they do, living a healthy lifestyle. I definitely can't speak from a standpoint of piousness, because there was a long time where I was definitely a unhealthy fellow, super unhealthy. And I'm not saying even now
Yeah,
that
like you have your own perspective on things, which is kind of a reason you can talk about it.
Yeah, and
but I know that your weight problems were never like that insanely bad.
I mean, yeah, I think they were. I think they were.
I don't think so. I don't think you were ever obese.
Oh man, I gotta send you the video. I'm just gonna tell y'all, I had man boobs and Dunlap syndrome. I mean, my belly was overlapping belts, and it was bad. I was like what you would call skinny fat. I was still skinny, but fat at the same time. Man boobs, Dunlap, it was bad. Y'all wouldn't want to see me that way. It wasn't a pretty sight. It wasn't a pretty sight at all. Anyway, thank you, Becca, for joining me on this episode of The Thinkening. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Y'all know what it is. Stay frosty, people.